Hi everyone. Today, Deni and I are bringing you a slightly different podcast, one of a series, we hope. We were in conversation a little while ago and we were talking about truth and how we've noticed that truth is surfacing so strongly at the moment within the collective. And we've been having lots of conversations between ourselves about truth. And we thought it would be a really beautiful idea to bring on some guests and allow them to speak to their truth. What are the three strongest truths that are rising for them at this time? And to share that with you from a beautiful heartfelt place. So today we're bringing on our beautiful friend, Mel Turnock. Hi, Mel, and hi, Deni.
Hi, both of you.
And Mel is no stranger to this podcast. She has been with us before, and you may remember the conversation that we had with her a little while ago, just around her story. And so, Mel, today we posed you the question, what are the three strongest truths that are rising for you at this time? And we would love you to share from the beautiful place that you always share. You're a really good communicator, and I love how you express your truth in a beautiful, heartfelt way. So I'd love to open the conversation between the three of us today with that invitation to share maybe your first strongest truth that's rising for you now.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. It's really lovely to be here. I think we need the nourishment of beautiful soul sisters right now. So very timely, being July 2021. It was lovely to be asked to consider truth because it got me to look back to times when I had no access to my truth and really look at the journey that I've taken from completely numbed out to what my truth was and just following the loudest person in the room through to this feels like what this connection between my knowing here and my heart here has all opened up. And it's like the two communicate with each other and the truth comes from that arrangement. And I heard Sonia Choquette talk about the throat as the chimney between the heart and the intuition and the connection to our knowing. And I just heard that the other day. I thought that's a really beautiful little engine to play with when you're tuning into truth. So I just thought I'd share that one to start with. So my first truth is looking outside of myself to find peace and joy is a dead-end road. It's like going to the carnival to get some quiet time. That was the image that came to mind. And I find myself still externally looking for someone to validate my opinion about the current medical situation, to suddenly feel like, yes, I'm justified to feel like that. So that's the non-truth. And what I've realized, particularly in the 48 hours since you ladies invited me to do this, is that is continually now a reminder to come back into here, because in 2 seconds flat, someone else will say blah, blah, blah. And I'll go, oh my God, I'm a freak. Everyone's going to hate me for my beliefs. So that external feedback is like little gifts that keep coming to discombobulate, to add to the chaos, the confusion. And it's a constant, can I swear on this podcast?
Hell yes.
It's a constant fucking reminder that you are the one that has your truth. And if you can't feel and find the peace and joy within you, then you're in a washing machine. And when you do find that peace and joy in you, it's like everything else out there is an invitation to consider and have empathy for and have curiosity about. And then I get to come home to my peace and my knowing. So it literally is like a safe harbor. And you can feel when you get out of that truth. And once again, it's like a sense of being disconnected from my heart and my knowing, and wanting all of you to make me think like I'm okay and I'm normal. And the duality between the two, it's potent. When you can feel the difference between the two, then you've got the choice to keep coming back to that place of peace. And right now, I feel really bad for people who haven't developed the capacity to find that inner place. Because I don't think in my lifetime of 50 odd years have we as a collective needed to be able to do that. Otherwise, because what we see out there, it's really hard to watch for sensitive people. So yeah, that's my first truth.
Wow.
It's an interesting thing. I think on the Monday's podcast, Fee and I talked about this place that's happening energetically this week of my truth versus collective and collective truth, and speaking up, and the balance between the place of your own knowing, but also feeling compelled to share your truth. Where does that sit with you?
Very interesting one. There have been days where I have felt compelled to speak my truth from anger, and then I've known that that's probably not a good idea. There have been days where I've been compelled to speak my truth from a place of love and genuine care, and that's when I speak. And then there's been all this internal questioning of, well, why are you being such a fucking good girl and only speaking from love? Why don't you just send that energy out and get rid of it? So it's this constant dance. And this again comes back to, if I do speak my truth, how does everyone react to that? And again, it's that next opportunity to come back and go, well, what was your intention behind your truth? And you guys said this, I think, in the podcast. If it comes from love, I have to fucking say it. And I know what love feels like because I've accessed that in myself. So I don't question what the loving intention is anymore. I can feel it. And then speak my truth. And I've also become quite discerning about the audience. And I will say certain things to certain people in conversation. When it comes to my social media posting, if it comes from love, and it's like, I don't want anyone to ever say, I wish you'd told me, Mel, about things. So often it comes from that place as well, which probably is a projection of mine, but so be it. So there's all these different angles to it. Interestingly, today I went back and I deleted a whole lot of stuff off my Facebook page. And that came from, I feel like I need a clean slate. I feel like I need to keep coming back to a 0 point and checking in, where do I feel, where am I today? Where am I feeling today? So yeah, that's just a real world example of me sort of taking away a whole lot of stuff, because I feel like we're a different person every day that rolls around at the moment. And so, yeah, it's a big one. Thank you for asking. I hadn't really sort of considered all that before.
I love what you said there around the intention, because I think that is part of this shift that we're in through truth at the moment, and the intention being everything. And I think that is why we are also being driven to clear out some of those connections that we have at the moment, because the intention doesn't feel clear behind people's words or behind what they're putting out into the world anymore. And it can be that as we step more into our truth, what they're speaking as their truth is no longer aligned to us, so their intention behind that doesn't feel quite the same. And I've noticed that within myself recently, been clearing out a lot of those old connections and just starting again. It's almost like this energetic decluttering as well as a physical one. And the interesting thing that you said there as well about the anger piece and when to vocalize, there's such a fine line between anger and passion. And sometimes our anger drives our passion. And so, you know, that just that piece in itself is interesting as we feel into, you know, the intention behind it, you know, because is it anger driven or is it passion driven? Because, and I don't have an answer, wish I did, but you know, it's such an interesting place to explore within ourselves when we feel that, you know, that rising in our bodies.
Yeah. I think I can tell it's anger if it's like a I want to piss you off. I want to make you feel bad. Like I want to demonize you for thinking like that and behaving like that. Like that. But for me, like for my whole, and I said this in our last podcast interview, for most of my life, I didn't even feel anger. I was so numbed out. So I actually think it's a delicious playground for me to be in. And I, Deni, we've had conversations like this before. This righteous anger to awaken in this world and to come and take up space, you know, that feels very powerful, as long as it's not venomous and it's like, you know, I want you to feel shit because I feel shit. Like that's the anger that I would keep away from.
Yeah, but that's the intention piece, isn't it? That's where you step into knowing what your intention is behind that. And what you did there was you beautifully, you go into that place of inner inquiry around it and check in with yourself and where is that coming from? And okay, that's not the right time for me to vocalize that. That's powerful. I mean, that's a really heightened state of self-empowerment when we can do that. And it's a beautiful gift to ourselves to be able to come from that place.
I also would love to reflect on the piece you said about going and clearing some of the posts and some of your Facebook. And you know, for someone who, you know, one of my driving forces is truth, and it always has been, and that's sometimes been me being the loudest voice in the room, because that was how I got across or thought I could convince people that my way was the highway, the right way. But that was, you know, in my younger years, and I often felt paralyzed by my truths, because once they were out there, they were me and they were seen as me. So I love, you know, in my later years, knowing that I can drop away, that who I was yesterday isn't necessarily who I am today, and to have people in our lives that allow us to be new people every day is such a powerful thing and such a loving thing. So I love that you give yourself permission to just be new every day. And have new truths every day. Yeah,
absolutely. It feels responsive to my human condition, as opposed to ignoring it and denying it. And that's I'm just checking, is that another one of my truths? I won't jump the gun. Stop talking, Mel. Listening now.
Well, maybe that's an invitation to dive into your second truth.
Every uncomfortable emotion that we feel is a doorway into a lighter, freer space. It is, in fact, a gift. And we all have probably spent years ignoring, not even feeling the uncomfortable emotions, numbed out. My knowing is that when you approach with safety and you allow the uncomfortable emotions to come up, that all you're doing is facing a part of yourself that you haven't had the courage or the knowing to be with. And it's an opportunity for that darkness to be met by the light. And we balk at it. And I've had clients that say, I haven't even dared face this for years. And it festers and it festers, and the walls just keep getting built. But when for years, I have worked with these uncomfortable emotions, and it's like it affords the other part of me to come in and love it up. And that's the duality. That's the masculine and feminine. That's the dark and the light. And if we keep ignoring the dark, it takes up more and more space in us. And it becomes a lens through which we see the world. And it proliferates in a physical way. Your body gets overwhelmed, toxified with this negativity. And it will manifest in some physical or mental way, because your body is simply screaming at you for some release from this pressure. So on a daily basis, I let my uncomfortable emotions come to the surface, and they are like a doorway, a portal into who I really am. And the who I really am comes in and holds hands with the one who is uncomfortable and scared of being a grown-up when it comes to finances and money after marriage breakup and having to earn enough money to support myself. That uncomfortable stuff, it's gold. And when you're brave enough to get to the other side of it, you feel fucking awesome. And I want that for everybody. I want everybody to feel like that. And it doesn't take 3 years of therapy and 3 weeks of, on the floor. It can happen like that right now. That's the potential. So it feels like I've spent the last 10 years preparing for when this really needs to matter, because we're all anchoring something very powerful and very loving if we're interested in these matters right now. It feels really important that I've done that, and I'll never stop doing it. Every uncomfortable emotion is a doorway into the light, and that is a promise that I can make you from my lived experience. So when you're ready to face them, they've got a little present for you, and you just have to allow in a way that feels safe. And that's growth. That's expansion. And that's that's dancing with the dark and the light. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question around that? And maybe put you in the deep end. Can you give us a tangible example recently of where you've done that and what that looked like?
Yeah. Many, actually, just in 24 hours. I yesterday was feeling into, why am I so scared about completing the financial paperwork to settle my marriage? I can feel the nervousness about it. And so I spent time with allowing that to come up, and it's just a physical experience, an emotional experience. And what I came to through my inner vision and what I hear is that version of me was really pissed off that in the past, that was the only thing I handed to my husband. I didn't do the finances, but I did everything else. I did the kids' stuff, the holiday stuff, and I left the money to him. And now there's this part of me that's coming up going, another fucking thing I have to do. I have to sort out the money now. Shit, I've got to earn a decent income to live as a single person. So it was all that darkness of like, oh God, now I have to do this as well. Haven't I done a fuck enough here? And so let it all come up, and she just crumbled on the floor, and she was just like really frightened and needed me, big, strong warrior Melissa, just to come and just say, we can do this together. And literally what happened was that scared financial wussy Melissa and me could just come in, and we just hugged each other and we just stood there. And she just said, don't rush me. We can do this together. Just hug me. And that's just happened in the last 24 hours. So now I get the honor of just sitting with her and letting her receive from me, and I can receive from her. And that is a step forward towards the enactioning of the money stuff.
Thanks for sharing that. I appreciate that.
I feel
I've
like
noticed...
I have a question, but I can't think what the question is. So no, you go. There's a question bubbling, but it's not coming yet.
Oh no, I just I've really noticed a lot of women I know making or reaching this point around finances. And we all know that finances represent something bigger in our lives, whether that's value or what we value. But there's something around this finances piece and the feminine and stepping up in some way right now that feels very, very important energetically at the moment, that reclaiming of our power, and maybe facing that place where we let that go so easily, or we handed that over so easily. We can all sit in that place of, oh, but that was the way our marriage worked, or that's just what he does. But there's that place of facing, actually, that was me giving that away because I couldn't be fucked, or I didn't want to step up to, and I'll own that too. But I've really noticed that in quite a few women, just having to face that place of, what is it about that I shied away from that, or that I felt much more comfortable to just blissfully hand over.
Yeah.
So I so relate to that.
Yeah. It feels like it was kind of a pattern, a condition, a traditional thing that you did in marriage was you looked after everything else, and he did the finances and the big income. So yeah. And you just learn so much about yourself, and you don't beat yourself around the head about it. Like, that's just the way it was. But right now I will be empowered from that experience, because I've taken away the unsafety of it, because I've looked after her in her fear, and I've said, yes, we can do this together. So I feel like there is all these other parts of me that can now work together coherently and feel a bit more empowered to do this thing that I've never had to do before. It's a whole new skill set. But how wonderful is that, right? That we can access that kind of power and keep it really simple. We create the drama around this, but of course we can do this. So I'm a bit closer to that capacity now.
Yeah.
And if we have control of our own money and value, then we can change how that looks in the world, which is the greater thing of bringing that power back, or at least keeping, igniting that power within the feminine, because in the larger world sense, we've given away that power to the masculine or the patriarchy, and we're in a shitstorm because of it. Yeah,
exactly. Just this week, I wished I'd had more money, because I wanted to support the women around me that I can see are really financially struggling, and pay ahead of time for my next haircut, and it felt like this real connection of community, of supporting women who are really, stepping up and having to do this. But, I'm not earning any money either, particularly at the moment. But there's just that's my thought process. Like, I wish we could give each other a leg up, right? Because like then we support other people, the ripple effect. All of the people in our lives get to benefit from our empowered state, not just because of the dollar. Like, that's what I'm really seeing with the feminine, our trickle effect of those that we can support and love and hold as we evolve and grow ourselves. It's that beautiful web that we've talked about before.
I'm just going to I just got to plug my computer in, otherwise we're going to lose power. So while I'm doing that, please just talk amongst yourselves.
Okay.
Well, I think I'll just add in a little bit around that, because yes, I think that piece around finances has been so big within the collective, and it's been this, I think, reweaving between money and power, because they've been so intrinsically interwoven in our psyche for so long, for many, many incarnations. And so we perceive them as the same thing. Money equals power and vice versa. Yeah. And as women, as we're becoming more self-empowered, what always goes hand in hand with self-empowerment is responsibility. And so we are now having to become more responsible around our money choices and money and what that means for us in our lives, because we can't be empowered and not have the responsibility around it. So that reclaiming of that is part of what I think we're all going through at this time, as we start to reweave this within ourselves at a personal level, because we need to work with it there first, and then, as you say, Mel, then we take it out into the world in a completely different way. Because it then becomes, like money and power are completely separate. They should be completely separate. And heart-based power has absolutely nothing to do with money whatsoever. So as we separate these between us, within our, these things between them within ourselves, what we can then do is show up in the world in a different way, which is the beauty of that, I think.
Yeah. I'll just quickly offer a practice that's been really helpful for me with money is having a date with money every fortnight. And taking, like in the days when we used to have coins and cash, and putting it on the table and looking at my bank account and talking to my bank account and thanking it and being grateful and feeling the support that money gives me, pretending money comes to my front door. How does money present? And the first time I did that, it was this stunning man that I just opened the door and he was like, "Come here, baby." And I was like, wow, that's a really nice money energy. That's how I'm going to work with it. So that's just a couple of suggestions for people.
I love it. I love it. And I can feel, if you'd asked me to do that maybe a year ago or 2 years ago, I would have gone, I can't think of a worse date to have. So hell no. And then today I'm just like, oh, I could do that. Sure. I could go and have a glass of wine with money and see what they have for me. So I've done a little bit of healing around that too. So, but I love that idea. Taking that on board.
Good one. I thought it might be worth sharing.
Shall we move on to 3?
Yeah.
Okay. It was hard to keep it to 3. I'll be truthful, but there you go. Okay. If you don't develop the courage to ask for what you want, you will deny others the opportunity to step up and evolve and meet their own patterns and ego. Long time to get to that place, because asking for what you want couldn't come from a place of numbness. Asking for what I wanted as a child didn't get met, so you stopped doing it. When you're in a new relationship of 11 months, you have a fertile playground for the new you to come through. In the act of working through whatever was in the way of me asking for what I want, and it was visceral. It was throat seizing up. It was frozen nervous system. I could see that pattern and I was like, F you. This relationship is not going to be seen through that lens. I cannot afford to be in an intimate relationship where I am still not asking for what I want. So step up. This relationship has given me more fodder than I could have possibly asked for. Imagined. So be careful what you wish for. To make it clear what I want. And the big picture of this is that what I've realized is that he wants me to ask for what I want, so he fucking knows what to do. And there was I thinking, well, shit, he's going to think I'm a bit high maintenance. Geez, he's going to think I'm a nutter. What if he's not prepared to do that and the relationship suffers? That realization dropped in this morning, because the last 24 hours has been another very clear example of, if I didn't ask for what I wanted, I denied him the opportunity to meet me, to show up for me, to recognize a pattern of his that is destructive. And again, it came from the intention. I had to record 3 times the voice message I was going to send him, to feel the energy, to listen back to what you did last night made me feel X. And next time it happens, if you can do Y, then I'll feel a lot safer. I recorded that 3 times. And the first one had tears and emotion. It was a bit needy. Right, no, you're not sending that one. Second one, I mixed my words up because I was thinking too much. Third one, I came from a place of, I love myself so much that I'm fucking not prepared to let this happen to me again. But he needs to know what to do instead. And then it's his choice to go back into his pattern of what he did, or to grow and evolve. So the third recording felt like, this is me in my power, coming from a place of love for myself and a strong desire for this relationship to work and thrive. So I recorded the third one, pressed send with no doubt in my mind. Now, there could have been so many obstacles to me doing that, like, oh shit, that's like the third problem we've had in the last 3 weeks, because lockdown's been a bit intense for us, getting to know, living together. He's going to say, geez, too hard. He's going to say, oh, why do you need, like, all the things that conditioning and bullshit told me. If I'd let them stop me doing that, I would be sitting here still seething and dreading seeing this man. And he would be in the prison over in his place at Taramara thinking, when the fuck's she going to ring me? What's going on now? But by sending that message, that was his opportunity to respond in his way. And there was no like, and if you don't do this, X is going to happen. It was just, this is the situation. He responded pretty promptly with, I've listened to your message and I hear you and I understand and I love you so much. Now, that was just like proof's in the pudding, until next time. But my heart is now so open to the courage. And you might listen to me and think, well, of course you're fucking going to tell him what you want. I often think of women in my life and think, they do this in a heartbeat. Why are you nervous about doing this, Mel? Well, I just am, because it hasn't worked in the past. But in doing this, I remember walking up the stairs from my bedroom this morning, feeling alive and feeling so proud of myself that I had done something from a place of love that was not just impactful for me, but is so nourishing for our relationship. And so fucking proud of myself for trusting myself. And so I gave him the opportunity to look at his behaviour and potentially change it. And the ball's in his court now, because maybe he can't. But I've claimed my space around this and I've honoured myself. And it really, honestly, girls, it just feels like the only thing we've got in life right now is to honour ourselves and love ourselves. It feels like everything else is crumbling. So those moments of just really being able to, and this was another truth that I can add to my list, this place of, if we can't be in the stillness and the safety of our own heart, we're really lost right now. And I was able to send that message from that place. So yeah, long story short, that is my third truth. If you don't ask for what you want, you deny others the opportunity to meet their patterns and step up into a richer relationship with you.
Thank you so much for sharing in such a beautifully vulnerable way, Mel. We really appreciate that. I so see you there, and there's this saying that came to mind as you were speaking, you can only be met as far as you're willing to meet yourself. And ultimately that's what it's about, is you sitting in your truth and asking for what you want. And I know this from a feeling inside of when I do this, and I also see you and how difficult that can be in relationship. It can be very easy in other parts of life, but for some reason in relationship, we tend to give away that power, and we, I guess, worry more about how we're going to be received than in asking for what we need to continue. And that's that self-empowerment of, it doesn't really matter what they come back with once you've done that. The power is in putting it out there. Once you've done that, you win either way, because if they don't meet you, you've just refused to settle. And if they do, your relationship goes up. So you win the moment the words are out.
Yes. Totally. I totally get that. It's like the act has been done, because you've and I just see the big sword being stabbed into the earth. I have staked my claim, and now it's up to you to do what you do. And if you don't respond in the same way, then it's made it even clearer to me that I'm not potentially in the right space. And thank you for that clarity, because I don't need that.
Either way, it honors them. Either way, it honors them. Whether they step up or they don't. But by not giving them the chance is just like, no one gets anywhere. Wow, that was cool. What's your thoughts, Fee?
Well, again, thank you, Mel, for sharing that so beautifully. But the other piece I think to add into that is that what you were just saying, Deni, about meeting yourself. The other part of that, I think, is the acknowledgement around other people can only meet you where they are able to go in that moment. So, even if the other person can't respond in the way that you really hope or need them to, it opens up, or it expands the conversation into where they are able to meet you at that time. So you can, it's almost like a bit of a to and fro around that, because the power is that piece of you stepping in the way that you did. That's the gold for you there, that you were able to do that. And then there are different pathways this can take now that you have stepped in, that are the opportunities of which doors are going to open here, and where you go with that, which I love, because it's you stepped into the unknown, and now anything can happen from that point.
And there is definitely the bit about me owning my power, and as you say, Deni, the moment that it was sent, the deed is done. But I'm an Aquarian, and I'm here for humanity and revolution in relationships. I've had my chart looked at in great detail, and therefore the bit about it gives the other person the opportunity to meet something. That's just a really important need that I have because of why I'm here. It's so much more than just the benefit that I will gain. I want the relationship, like like I often joke, there's me, there's him, and then there's us. There's three of us in this relationship, and I want the us to get as much out of it as I do and he does, if that makes sense. So
Beautiful.
Yeah. I love that Aquarian piece. I come from a lot more of an Aries piece, which is the I am piece.
Well, it takes all sorts to make the puzzle of the world, right?
Oh, Mel, this has
Absolutely.
been amazing. It's been beautiful hearing those three truths. I think that, what it does is it opens the door for others that listen to stand in their truth more strongly and in more an empowered way. So thank you. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for creating the forum for people to really explore. And I know when you hear other people talk about this stuff, you feel like you're not alone in it. You're not alone in navigating all of this. So it's really important for these conversations. So thanks.
And thank you, Mel. I would be interested to know if you are open to people contacting you if they have anything that they would like to discuss with you around these conversations, and to know where they can get hold of you and how they can get hold of you. We can put some details in underneath the podcast around that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I do this for me 3 steps ahead as I do it for my clients as well. So yeah, thank you for that opportunity. I will.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining us today, Mel.
Pleasure.